introduction. Manjiri is finally happening after 10 years. Manjiri and me, we have been working together for, well, we have worked almost 12 years back in Zensar, and she's been my mentor throughout. The only one thing I know is if you want to know my CV, Manjiri is a living version of it. Right from the first professional job that I did to where I'm today, Manjiri knows the in and outs of everything. And there was one incident in that journey, which is in the book, in the first very page. You need to obviously get hold of the book to get to know it, but that's the story that triggered this whole idea of writing the book, the business of managing emotions. Let me talk about why the need for this book. Why do we need to talk about emotions in business? It's actually even refiner than that. This is not just emotions for entrepreneurs, for CEOs, for executives, you know, all the leadership we talk about. These are emotions for us, for normal people who go for a 9-to-5 job and all they want is, hey, I want to be able to pay my bills. I just need that next promotion. I just need to be able to manage 5 more people. That's all they look for. They're not looking for a big breakthrough. It's about managing emotions for them. At the moment where we are, in the world where we are living, where technology is taking over everything, there's a mantra that gets rolled around quite often. When a business has to make its employees redundant, there's just, oh, I'm in India, I can do English, I will do English. Ek mantra bola jata hai, it's business, nothing personal. If there's a person who's expecting a salary increment and that doesn't happen, you know, in UK they've got different reasons, Brexit and whatnot. In India there are different reasons, monetization and so all other stuff. There's again a mantra, you know what, it's just business, nothing personal. I so want to help you, but I cannot, right? Everything is this one statement. And that story needs to change. It's not just business, it is personal too. Now, this is my journey of when I had a big opportunity and for some reason whatsoever, I could not tap into my emotions and I could not make the most out of it. And the journey has been about trying to understand that. There's one thing that I realize. Every person in this hall right now is carrying a smartphone. Most of us are. And then we are told, hey, can you put this phone on a flight mode when you get into planes, or just make sure it doesn't buzz? The moment somebody tells us, put your smartphone on flight mode, we just go, eek, I don't want to do that. I'll miss out something important. A smartphone is useless without data and internet. In the same way, if you tell a human being, you're about to walk into a workplace, because it's just business, nothing personal, can you just keep your emotions aside? Don't bring emotions into work. It's just not possible. We are human beings. This is the hardware, the body. We have a brain. This is where the software fits. And in IT language, you know, they talk about GB RAM and all. The 9 emotions that we talk about in this book, those emotions are responsible for the efficiency a person will show at workplace. And that just doesn't include making an employee happy or inviting employees to become more curious and become more creative. That all is fine. It's also about telling employees it's okay to be angry. You can be angry in front of your line manager as long as you know how to tap into that anger. You can also feel disgusted at workplace for something that's happening. Feel the feeling, but make sure you use that energy in a very positive way. So the book talks about real life stories. The book talks about tools and toolkits that you can use in terms of how to tap into that energy. And the third and the final point, and this probably for me is the most important one, is having studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya, which is dominated by so many army people. I've got so many friends in the army. And there's one theme they talk about is whenever a group of army people are going on a mission, doesn't matter if they hate each other, doesn't matter if they don't get along with each other. When they're on the field, everyone is focused on that one task and everyone is focused on protecting each other. How do you take that same framework of the mind coaching that is given to army people, that is given to athletes? How do you take those frameworks and give them to your employees so every employee knows it's not my business responsibility to help me manage my emotions. I've got to do it on my own. I need to learn what makes me angry, what makes me disgusted, and when I get angry, how do I tap into that? It's bringing it down to that level. And the final closing point is, I think there's an assumption everywhere where we are taught you've got to learn physics, you've got to learn chemistry, you've got to learn maths. We might be sent for a physical training period, a PT period, to sort of play some sports and everything else. But emotions, they don't come into the curriculum anywhere, because the assumption is parents and grandparents and the joint family system will teach emotions. But here's the thing, no one is proactively looking at the process of teaching those emotions. And this book is an attempt to do that.
You're speaking about the emotions in professional life and business, but actually business world is dominated by the macho, considered macho word, dominated by, so said to be or supposed to be a cruel, cold word, where there is no place for emotions. So how were you inspired to take this line that is not prevalent at the moment?
It's a big shift. You look at the world of, so where does, and it's a part of what I do as a coach. My exciting part is, you look at all the world of, sports and athletes, where they've got so many coaches who are coaching, people on how to win 100 meters race or how to win the next cricket match. It's about coaching the Indian team on how to manage your anger when you're playing against a certain country, or how to manage your excitement if you're playing against a country that you know you'll beat straight away, right? That's one world which is really exciting. It's all about mind over there. You pick up those frameworks, you offer them to the business world, and suddenly things change. That mind becomes money. In sports world, they say just do it. And in the business world, it becomes JFDI, which is just freaking do it. There's no return on emotion, there's return on investment. But here's the reason why. Again, back to the army world, it's much more brutal than business world. Out there, lives are at stake. And the only way to survive for a team that's out on a mission is to tap on their emotions. Because if they don't control and if they don't leverage on their emotions, they'll not be able to focus on mission at hand. And the only loss that happen is not money, it's an actual life they will lose. If a world that brutal, where it's only about life and death, has to leverage on emotions, then surely there's a case to bring the same into the business world. That's the first reason. The second reason, just a quick one, we are moving into a world where technology is taking over everything. And it is. Any usual job that we do, if technology can replicate that job, it will be gone. It will be gone, imminently. Not in the next 10 years, it will be gone imminently. At that point, where technology becomes so strong that it can do any repetitive job, us human beings, the only reason why we'll be hired by businesses is where we as human beings can do something that system cannot do. And to do that something, we'll have to dig into our instinct, and we'll have to be more emotional to be able to give an outcome that a system cannot offer, because technology doesn't have emotions yet. I don't know, in 30 years it might. I think one of the reasons why the idea for the book, not the idea of writing a book came to my mind, was because it was a coaching session I was having with my coach, and I was like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to create an impossible goal, which was writing this book. And then, I spoke to Manjiri, and she's been a mentor throughout. It was just the right combination. The first few chapters were me being excited about this. Oh, yes, I'm going to write something amazing. But as the survey results were coming in, and then you have a chief executive and a coach coming from two very different spaces. Because Manjiri is very calculative. She knows things clearly, and I'm more like a coach, deep coaching inside out. It was then becoming more of a movement, because stories were coming out from people. And the one thing I've realized why this book is for everyone is it's not easy to find the code or the framework to train a generation on how to manage emotions. That will take some time, and that will take some effort. Us as a generation, which is my generation, we haven't had any training on managing emotions, right? And if we are realizing now we got to do something, not the retired generation, but the generation which is out of work, they can possibly look at the book, read the stories, and give their feedback of what they have been through, their experience, and if they were to relive their life where they could not manage those emotions, how they would have done it. That generation working with this generation to then bring up a framework or a way to train the future generation. I have two kids now who are 4 years and 8 months, and I always think, I'm aware now, I need to manage my emotions, but where do I even begin? And that's where two generations have to work together. That's one of the reasons why I would think that any person can connect with this book who believes workplace emotions, that doesn't make sense. Oh, let me read that and see what do I think about it then.